We're honored to be joined by Israel's Minister of Intelligence, Eli Cohen, for a conversation with Dr. Seth Frantzman, the Jerusalem Post Middle East correspondent.
We're happy to be here today with Minister Eli Cohen, Minister of Intelligence, member of the Security Cabinet, and former Minister of the Economy and Industry. Thank you very much for being here with us. We have a lot of big news in the Middle East in the last few weeks. Israeli peace deals, it looks like, Abraham Accords. Who do you think might be next in terms of Israel's opening relations with the Arab world?
A few days ago, we celebrated Rosh Hashanah, which is actually the beginning of the new Jewish year. And actually, this is symbolized a new beginning. And in the previous week, we saw a new Middle East, a new peace agreement, which I'm sure there will be more to follow after. We see a dramatic change in the Middle East. We see a coalition of peace with Israel, the United Arab Emirates, with Bahrain, with Egypt, and more countries that will come under the umbrella of the United States. And on the other end, we see Iran, Turkey, and the Palestinians. We see actually that the President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. So if you are strong in our neighborhood, you are able to have such achievement as the peace agreement.
That's very important what you say in terms of strength. Israel has just kind of soldiered on, and Israel has taken time and waited, and these countries have begun to open up towards us, and obviously with Washington's support. So do you think that this is really a new era in the Middle East? Are we after like 20 years since the Second Intifada, when buses were blowing up everywhere around us? Do you see this as a whole new era that is going to define this century?
Definitely. The previous peace agreement signed 26 years ago, and the two peace agreements that until the peace agreement with the UAE was with Jordan and Egypt, which is they are our neighbor, and there was a war between Israel and them, and now we have an agreement with a country that we don't have a border with there. So we speak about the United Arab Emirates, we speak about Bahrain. I believe more countries from the Gulf will join to this peace agreement. I believe that more African countries will join also to this peace agreement. This peace agreement, actually there is two things. The first is the security issue. They understand that the threats on those countries, it's not Israel, it's Iran. We saw what Iran did to Saudi Arabia. So this is on the one hand, and definitely as the Minister of Intelligence, we will join forces with the United States in front of Iran. And if we speak about the economy, this opens a potential economy opportunities for both countries. They are very good in oil and gas. We have a lot of technology, and I know that right now there is a lot of Israeli investors are looking for the direct flights to fly to the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, and also from Bahrain and the UAE to Israel to look for new opportunities. I think that this agreement will strengthen our security on the one hand, and we give prosper to the citizens of both countries.
Well, that sounds really great. You mentioned Iran. That's one of the things that is definitely frightening, is that we have a wonderful, startup nation, high-tech economy right here in Tel Aviv and Israel. And the UAE, I mean, those economies, they look a lot like what we have here, in terms of high-tech, pioneering, dynamism. But one of the big problems, obviously, is a country like Iran or some other countries in the region, they'd like to spoil that. And mostly what Iran has exported around the region is instability, chaos, the destruction of places like Iraq or Yemen. So I saw yesterday that there's reports that Iran is going to be doing more long-range missile testing, working with North Korea. Maybe you could give us a sense of the Iranian threat and where you see that that's going also in the next few years.
Iran never give up for what she is trying to achieve, a nuclear weapon on the one hand. Iran speak clearly about the destruction of Israel. Iran is the number one for financing terror. And you can see in all the places where Iran is involved, the citizens of those countries are suffer. We speak about Hezbollah in Lebanon. We speak about the Islamic Jihad in Gaza. We speak about the Houthis in Yemen. We see what they're doing in Syria And I want to thank the President Trump and Secretary Pompeo for continuing the embargo on Iran. And I want to take this opportunity and to speak to Britain, to France, and to Italy. They should join to the US embargo, since they know what Iran doing with the money she received for oil. She financed a Shia militias which is acting in terror in all the region. And we remember what happened to the Jewish in Europe. And I think that right now they should stand in front of Iran and say no more. No more money to finance terror, no more money for Hezbollah, for Jihad Islamic, for Syria, and no more continuing to violating the nuclear agreement that signed with them. And they should speak clearly. The history will judge them. And we see that the policy of the United States, this is the right policy to speak clearly and to stand against the one who are looking for evil. And see who is speaking against the peace agreement, which is Erdogan, which is thinking he's a sultan, Iran, and the Palestinian. And I think right now, and this coalition and the European country should join to this coalition on the one hand, and to the embargo which started by the Americans.
Right. Well, thank you so much for being with us. It's really great. Really appreciate it. And I hope that everything you said will come true in the next few years.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.